Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking transmissions. This right here is a all-wheel drive Toyota Matrix. Now you might be wondering, what's going on here? Well, I bought it as a parts car and I'm going to use some of these parts on my Corolla. So if you know maybe what I might be up to, leave a comment down below if you can guess. But anyways, as you can tell, it has cosmetic damage, the engine runs poorly, the exhaust is gone, and on top of that, the transmission is missing reverse, fourth, and sometimes second. And so other than that, it drives like a dream, and beautiful car, right? But no, joking aside, what we're going to do today is we're going to drop the pan, we're going to change the filter and fluid, and we're going to try and diagnose the solenoids, because I do have a code for solenoid A stuck off. We're going to see if we can figure out anything, and what better way to learn about transmissions and changing fluid and solenoids and things than on one that is already broken on a parts car that I don't even care about. So no risk at all. We're gonna learn today. It's gonna be a learning experience. So why don't you dive in with me? It's actually kind of convenient that the bumper and inner plastic trim is all ripped off, because it makes it really easy to film. You can see right here, nothing in the way. We got the pan. You're gonna need a 10mm Allen socket here for the drain plug, then just standard 10 mils for all of these. Use some PB Blaster on all of these, try and loosen them up, and we're going to go ahead and drain it. All right, here we go, and out it is coming. Oof. I let it drip for a few minutes and got just a little bit over 3 liters out of the pan through the drain plug before I put it back in. Now we're going to go ahead and drop the pan and see what we're able to get out of it. I'm going to need a breaker bar to pop this off, or something like that, a mallet maybe. I meant to say pry bar, not breaker bar, but let's see what we can do here. All right, that is all of them. So let's see how this goes. Okay, that was a lot better than I thought. Thought I was going to make a huge mess. So that was good. The pan is down. Not that much fluid was left in there. Most of it came out through the drain plug. There's a little bit of metal to clean off of the magnets, but it's nothing ridiculous. I was honestly expecting it to be like metallic flakes everywhere. The fluid dark, but again, no huge chunks or flakes. There's the filter, just 3 bolts, and here are the solenoids that we're looking at checking. I think it's these two though that are, one of them's 1 and one of them's A and B. Here you can see the valve body with the filter removed. I've also taken out one of those and loosened the bolt on that one, but let me come up in close here. These are the solenoids we're working with on this Toyota transmission. This is a single wire solenoid. That means that it grounds to the car through the transmission. There's just one power wire going in to control it, open and closed. And here's what I'm going to do to test it. Super cheap test light. All I did is I took aluminum foil and I put it around the bulb so that it bypasses the bulb and just makes it like a straight through signal. Connected to the 12 volt on the battery. Listen. You can also see it moving up there. That means that it's working. Now listen to this one here. That one's a little bit louder. This one here, I might have to hold this up because with the bolt out, it's not going to ground very well. Like if it was like this, it won't ground. But anyways, let's see. So you can hear there. The reason that I took that bolt out though was to show you if this solenoid was bad, unfortunately Toyota didn't think it through super well, because you can't actually fit it out without taking the valve body, probably dropping it out of the transmission, or grinding this thing away, because you can't get that. Then lastly here, I also wanted to show where this one was removed, kind of so you can see how it works. All you're controlling is the flow of fluid going this way and then going this way. You can see there's a little hole in there. Let me come over here and show you a better way of understanding this. This is that solenoid that was removed. So all I have here is my hand pump. We're going to 5 psi pressure. It doesn't really matter that much. Then I've got a reservoir with a little bit of new ATF. And then here is that last solenoid that I already took out. Oops. Same setup as before, except for hopefully I don't spill fluid all over the place this time. You can see we've got the solenoid. This time I have it grounded through this clamp. And then I've got my same 12 volt supply, just the battery I was using before. When we touch it here, you can see how it works. Basically, open and close controls that fluid flow. This is how your transmission is able to be controlled, whether or not to shift certain gears electronically, is by using these shift solenoids. It's about time to put the pan back on, but while I'm here I figured I'd show you. I pulled the other two solenoids that I'm able to take out just to see what they look like, and it's kind of cool to see inside. You know, how often do you have a transmission apart? They're all a little bit different, but they all pretty much work the same way, where fluid goes in and out the side. Nothing comes out the back. This is just a breather hole for the diaphragm. But the last way you could test these, if you were really trying to test everything possible, is not only to give them 12 volts, but to check resistance. And it's going to be a little hard to hold here and show, but all of these showed around 12 ohms, which is similar to Toyota fuel injectors. And so they all checked out. If you were to get a reading like 0 ohms or something like that, you would know that the coil inside is dead, which if you want to learn a little bit more about coils, I have a video on the AC compressor field coil diagnosis and replacement you could go check out. Anyways though, so here we've got the old filter and the old gasket. I tore it taking it off, but it was actually in really good shape. I could have just reused it probably, but anyways, I just said, hey, I'll put the new one on that came with it. I used a little bit of RTV in the corners. Might be able to see, just to keep it so that it doesn't fall off while I'm reinstalling the pan. Got the pan all cleaned out, magnets there. Here's the old filter. You know, it's not, obviously it looks pretty polluted, but it's hard to say whether it's actually clogged, restricting flow. Here's the new one, just looks nice and clean. Now this is a paper style filter. I want to show you over here, just if you're curious, this is the filter I bought at the same time for my Tacoma, which I'm planning on doing a filter and fluid service on. You can see inside this one, it's just like a mesh, like a really fine metal mesh. So if you have a style like this, you might even be able to just clean it out with brake clean and reuse it. But with the paper style ones, since they get saturated with contaminants, you pretty much are going to need to replace them. And I'm getting my dirty fluid on there, but that's no problem. We've talked a lot about solenoids and looked inside the transmission, but I've got that put back together now, and we're going to talk about refilling and flushing the transmission. So, and before I forget, make sure the O-ring is on for when you put the filter back in. You don't want to forget that. But just using some standard Valvoline Max Life, you know, I'm not using the dealer fluid or anything. And this car is unique in that it's a modern car that still has a dipstick and fill tube. But if you didn't have a fill tube and you were just working with 2 plugs, like on a manual transmission or on a differential or something, This is an idea I got from YouTube, which is we just have a garden sprayer, and I've put ATF in it. You can see here, when I pull the button here, you're able to fill. So this is kind of a good idea if you don't have this dipstick hole like we have. But luckily I have it, so I didn't need this for this, but wanted to show that. Now all we're doing here is we're using the transmission's pump to flush the fluid out. Gonna keep it real simple. I've put a gallon into the transmission, and it's a little bit above the full mark on the dipstick. I'm going to turn the key, run it, and I'm going to try and just do it in short intervals, measure out maybe 2 quarts, right, into here. We don't want to run the pump dry, so if we see air bubbles coming up, we know that we need to refill the fluid, but we're not even going to run it that long. We're just going to run it until just a few seconds, really, should be all we need. Going to get the old fluid, some of it out. Then we're going to stop the engine, top it off with another 2 quarts, do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again, until we see nice clean fluid coming through here, going into here. Once you see bright red fluid coming through, you know you've flushed out all the fluid. Now if you don't want to do this, you could just drop the pan like we did, drain plug. We got quite a bit out. I mean, you know, you could just refill it and you'd be fine, you know. You'd still have maybe half the fluid in it old, but half of it would be new, and it'd still be a lot better than what was in there before. You know, a lot of people who don't want to do the flushing, they'll just cycle a few times of drain and fill, and you'll get most of it out. But I just want to try this to learn, and since it seems a little bit more efficient. All right, let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to get in the car, and don't worry about how loud it is. I have the garage door open, but this thing does not run well, and it's missing its exhaust, so it's going to be loud. But I'm going to start with 5 seconds of engine running and see how much fluid we get out. Okay. It looks like it's a little bit hard to tell because we had to fill this line here. That didn't go up very much, so let's do another 5 or 10 seconds, see where we're at then. Okay, so still going slower than I thought. I was expecting it was really going to fill up, or not fill, but expel fluid faster. So let's put in a little bit more ATF, and then let's run it longer and just keep going for a little bit. And this darn stuff spills absolutely everywhere, so just be careful with it. It's some gross stuff. All right, there's a bit more. I wish I could see the container. I guess I can look out the window just barely and look at it. I'll do that this time. This is going much slower than I was expecting. I'm trying to keep an eye on the tub, and it is just going slow. It could be that this transmission's totally screwed up though as well, so I don't know. Okay, I just saw some bubbles going through. It's been about a minute, maybe a minute and 20 seconds. Whoa! Okay, we've got some forces still going here. Nothing is leaking down in the transmission, but it is still filling this, oddly enough. It's making some weird sounds. So let's get this filled up with some more fluid here. No. Spilling everywhere. I think the weird sound I was hearing was that the pump must have been sucking air. Unfortunately, unlike an engine where you have a pickup tube, this just sucks straight out of that filter, and since the filter is, relatively high in the pan, there's actually probably half or so of the gallon we put in wasn't even able to get sucked up. But regardless, we're gonna go ahead and put this full gallon in. Well, actually, let me check. How much did we go up? Yeah, we've got about a gallon out of it. So if it's a little over full, it doesn't matter until the end. I am also going to need to switch out this pan or drain it or throw it away or something. So I'm going to pause. We're going to get this emptied out, and then we're going to keep going at it till we get this fluid clear. Well, it's a little bit embarrassing, but I forgot to hook my mic up for the second go at it, so I'm just going to re-record this. Honestly, it's pretty redundant. We were doing the same process of getting in, starting it, putting it in drive, turning it off, pumping more fluid. It was hard to see because there was some air bubbles and because I'm just that tiny little crack I was looking through, but this fluid is totally good, and you don't need to pump out another 5 quarts. That is just a waste of fluid. I would pump maybe 1 or 2 more quarts out. So in total, we dropped the pan and got about a gallon out. Then we flushed it again with another gallon. So that's about 2 gallons there. It's looking pretty good by the time you've put 2 gallons through it. If you want to just stop at 2, that's reasonable. This was excessive. Don't do this like me. But again, it's my first time. I'm learning. It's hard to see, but the good thing is I'd rather waste fluid if this was a valuable car that I wanted to really keep than have dirty fluid still be in it. And so I'm going to disconnect this line here. Going to go ahead and rehook up the return line back down there. Can top off the dipstick, get it perfect later on, but as far as this video goes, we're pretty much at the end of it. So you might be wondering, what about that code we had for shift solenoid A stuck off? What's the deal? All the solenoids tested is good. Why was that code in there? So that is what is called a performance code, which means that the performance of the transmission, how it's shifting, is consistent with if that solenoid had been failing. So the computer always monitors the shifting, it monitors the RPMs, input-output shaft speeds, all that stuff, and it is able to tell what is going on is consistent with a solenoid failing. It is not an electrical code, which would mean that the computer actually knows the solenoid has failed. And so what does that mean is something inside the transmission. We're talking about a clutch pack, we're talking about the valve body is clogged, there's a passageway, something inside the transmission is damaged to where it is creating a condition that is consistent with that solenoid failing. But even after all our work, doing our fluid flush, filter and all that, we haven't fixed anything. I've driven it around enough to know it's doing the same thing. But that's okay, because we learned a ton, and I hope that by you watching this video, you're able to not make the mistakes that I made of running it too short of a time, or not getting enough fluid out, or pumping too much fluid out. Just, have a good view of that fluid as you're doing it and all that stuff. Appreciate you watching very much. You could see it was a very messy job, so give me a like and subscribe just because I got my hands dirty for you guys, okay? So you owe it to me, all right? And get subscribed because just during the time that I finish this up, I also put an exhaust on. I'm going to have a video coming out in about 2 weeks. We're talking about building an exhaust system. So get subscribed and all that good stuff. I'll see you later. Bye.